This is Data-Driven UX Decisions with me. So if you're in the wrong room, you can leave. I'm totally fine with that.
Did you draw that picture or is it AI?
I drew it with AI. So first off, this conference is special to me. In Texas in January, it was the first time I gave a talk at a conference. So it was fantastic. But secondly, this is kind of a homecoming for me. I was born and raised in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is about an hour and a half from here. So it's pretty nice to come back here because currently I live in Austin, Texas. It's very hot there, but we love it there, so it's pretty cool. I want to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, obviously we couldn't do this conference. They provide a lot. And also, I just want to remind everybody that a lot of the vendors, they have things to give away. So if you go there, make sure you use the code 2304 so that when you win, I win, okay? Sweet. Perfect. All right, so I wanted to start off with an icebreaker. This conference is really cool because it's a little bit different, right? Different in a way where the conference wants you to meet people, wants you to connect and kind of expand your network. So for 5 minutes, if you can identify someone that you don't know, get to know them for about 5 minutes, and then I'll bring everybody back together. All right, let's go. All right, everybody, back to your seats, and let's get ready for the session.
That was a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Don, he tweeted to me, he was like, your session is the first one to kickstart the conference. And I was like, well, what better way than for you to meet somebody new so that after this, when you get out of here, you can continue to have these conversations, right? So it's a good Kickstarter so you can get going, meet new people and all of that. Because like Kent said, the more you know people, the better your network is going to be because you just expand your knowledge and the ability to kind of go to different companies and all of that. So I hope that you can continue these conversations after this. So again, I am Shashi Low. I drew that picture as well. Senior UX engineer at Microsoft. Don't blame me for what happened last week. I didn't do it. But this is Data-Driven UX Decisions. And before we start, I want to take a selfie to remember this moment. There you go. All right. How are we going to get everybody in? I have no idea. All right, squeeze in if you want to. There we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, so you might be wondering and asking me, why does data-driven UX matter to me? I don't care about the pixels. I'm just a developer, right? But let me ask you this. Have you ever received a feature request and thought to yourself, what is this? Why are we building this? They didn't even consult the developers, and we're going to build this thing? It's easy to be an obedient developer and just take the feature on, build it out, and say, okay, great, let's see what happens, right? But instead, let's be curious. I'm hoping that this session can shed some light to give you some data-driven resources so you can take it back to your team and use it on your own to make better UX decisions. All right, so things we'll cover in this session. How can data help make better UX decisions? I'll bring up an industry that's using data to kind of revolutionize the way they do things. How can we achieve the goal of implementing more successful features using quantitative data and qualitative data? And then we're going to go and look at a common UX process. And then lastly, we'll look at an improved UX process that we can combine all these tools, or some of them, and create a better process. Okay? So first, how can data make better UX decisions? I've been a part of many, many teams. It's been in the industry for about 17 years, several teams. Everybody does things differently. But the decision to push forward implementation without a thorough review is kind of a disaster that's going to happen, right? So how does data make UX decisions better? So let me give you an example of an industry that is revolutionizing the way they do things. Baseball, okay? So if we look at this graph, we'll look at the left one, right? This is the standard infield batter, or infield. So I'm a left-handed batter, okay? Think about, I'm this way. And the ball's coming this way. And as I'm about to hit it, right, naturally, I'm going to hit it to the right 44% of the time. And I'm going to hit it in the middle 41% of the time. So that's about 85%, right, going to the middle and the right. And about 14% to the left. So as they hit it, you can see the percentage up there. This average is based off 1,000 chances of hitting, right? So on average, a left-handed hitter is hitting about 248. And baseball average is about 250. So that's pretty good. If you go up over 300, that's excellent. You're a great hitter. And if you can see the infield, we have a third baseman, shortstop, second baseman, and a first baseman, right? There's 4 people in the infield. So when this person hits the ball, and it's a ground ball, or it goes towards that way, they have a better chance to get them out. More outs equals, not always, more wins, but you get the inning done, and you can, replay it again. So on the right side, using analytics, they shifted their infield to the right? Because this individual is a lefty, and they're going to hit the ball that way most of the time, right? 85% of the time. So you can see the numbers for the shifted infield. Now they're only hitting 202. So even a lower number, giving that team a better chance to win. And they're going to hit the ball with their 50 more percent, 37%. So by using analytics to understand what you're trying to achieve, you can shift things so that it goes in favor of your advantage, so that you have a more efficient way of doing things. A great example of this is the book and movie Moneyball. Brad Pitt plays the GM of the Oakland A's, athletics. Back in 2002, they were competing against some hotshots, right? They're a small market team. So in baseball, like a lot of professional sports in the U.S., there's a cap. There's a salary cap. It's 100 million, 200 million, whatever it is. Baseball, there is none. So you can spend as much money as you want to get the best players or the best developers, right? You can spend all this money and get the best players. That means you're going to have the best chance to win. And the Oakland Athletics is a small market team, so they don't have those funds. And every time somebody's good in their league, in their club, they go off to the bigger clubs because they're going to get paid more. So they can't even retain their own talent. And so, looking at the 2002 MLB salaries, right, from top to bottom, well, not all the way bottom, but just the top 4 and the bottom 2, New York Yankees spent $132 million. Okay. Number 2, Boston Red Sox, 108. 3, Texas Rangers, 105. Arizona Diamondbacks, 101. Okay. Now, the Athletics were the 28th out of 30. So, how many guesses? What do you think they spent on their salary? Any numbers? 50. Anybody else? 37, 30, 31, 20. Okay. Pretty close. Not really, but 41. Close enough, right? That's almost half of what these top 4 teams are paying for. And the bottom team was the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at $34 million, right? So they're not spending a lot of money. And the top 4 teams, they all made it to the playoffs. So before they switched the format in baseball, only 6 teams made it into the playoffs. 3 from one side, no, 4 was it? Whatever it is. But it's very hard to make it into the playoffs. So those top 4 teams spend the most money, and they all made it in. Right? They had a chance to win the World Series, which is the championship. The Oakland Athletics, they also made it in. And the reason why they made it in is because Billy Beane was tired of losing. So he hired Paul DePosta, which is a Harvard economics graduate, to come in and kind of reshape baseball because they wanted to do things differently. And he saw that he was doing things differently with analytics. The two key things that they were doing was the pitcher, they didn't care how the pitcher threw the ball, they just wanted strikes, right? Because in professional sports, if you don't look like a baseball player, you don't act like one, they kind of don't want you to be a part of the team. And so they were to find some people that came in that threw the ball different, but they always threw strikes, or they threw majority strikes. The second key thing was to get on base, right? Either it was through walks or bunting or just hitting. Like, they didn't care if they could play first base or not. If you could get on base, we could put you on the field so that you can get on base so we could score. More runs equals possibly more wins. More strikes equals less scoring for the other team. And so they use this analytics to help them achieve the goal of making it to the playoffs. Currently, they have not won a championship since, but they've been in the playoffs oftentimes, right? They've always been a player. But in 2002, they achieved the goal of winning 20 consecutive wins in baseball. And if you don't follow baseball, you can look at any team. It's very hard to win even 4 or 5 games in a row. So to win 20 games in a row, it's a great achievement. So to this day, Moneyball and how they use analytics has definitely revolutionized the way baseball is done because almost every team is doing it now. You watch the Cubs, the Brewers, like they all do shifting and all that stuff. They do the bunting when somebody's on second base. They'll bunt to get out to let the player on second go on third base so the next player can hit and get a run in. They'll take that sacrifice because they know that getting runs and outs and stuff, it all really matters. All right, so, I think we're done. I'm just kidding. What, you guys knew? Oh, gosh. So how can we achieve making UX decisions? All right. So first thing is quantitative data. And quantitative data is numerical and measurable, right? Using data analytics, using user testing, heat maps, A/B testing. And then secondly, we have qualitative data. And qualitative data is based on subjective opinions, right? User interviews, focus groups, and surveys. So first, we'll look at quantitative data and how numerical information can be measured and analyzed. It shows you the who, the what, the where, the when, but it does not tell you the why. So here are some resources that we could use. So analytical data. One very popular tool is Google Analytics, right? It can look at user behavior flow, metrics, page views, bounce rates, conversion rates, so many more things. So let's go ahead and look at one of the screens here, the overview screen. You can see at the top here, we have sessions, users, page views, all this stuff, but look at the bounce rate. It's 80%, right? That means that when they're coming into that page, they're leaving. 80% of users are leaving. So is that intentional? Is that bad? Do you need to refactor that page? Do you need to kind of alter it? Do you need to have a plan behind there so we could decrease that number? So that allows you to kind of alter and shift things so that it meets your goals. The next one is our heat maps. It can track a user's mouse position, scroll position, clicked area, and a ton more. One great tool for that is, what is it called again? Crazy Egg. So if we look at this screen here, right? This is a news article website. The brighter the color, the better. That means that majority of users are getting there. The darker the color, the worse. That means the users are not getting there. So if you know the concept of first fold, the top half, users are always going to see that, right? When they enter, they're going to get there, they're going to see that. But as the page gets longer, it's getting darker. That means they're not getting there, right? And over here, if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's a popular articles section down here. If that was a key feature for your company and they're not getting there, you can refactor your website and move that up, right? Figure out a way to move that feature up because users are not getting there, right? Show of hands, how many people have been tasked to build a homepage that is super long and the leadership's like, hey, yeah, let's put this feature down here, users will get there? Oh yeah, like majority of people. I've had that happen so many times. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? We're going to spend 40 hours on this and we're not going to get there. They're like, no, it's okay. And I show them this, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, let's just make that into another page or something. Okay, cool, because this homepage is, it's just too long. It's not going to load. It's not going to be performant, and all that. So by having this data, you have the power and the analytics to go back to your team to justify, to refactor things. Another one from Crazy Egg is the clicked area, right? So if you look at here, all the bright areas are where the users are clicking and going to, right? Obviously, the main navigation, the search bar. But what's very interesting is if you look on the right side here, there's a free course ad, or not ad, but like call to action here. The email input, users are clicking that. But the submit button, it says, yes, let's start the free course. Not many people is clicking that, right? It can mean two things though. It can mean that the user's going to email, typing it in and pressing enter and not even pressing the button at all. Or they're putting the email in and then they're just leaving it there, right? So we can refactor that. We can be like, okay, that button is not prominent enough. We can change the style, move it around, whatever it is, because for accessibility purposes, you still need that submit button. Or is it that we shift it so that the layout's a little bit different so that users can see that it is something? Because you could shift that over, make that inline, and save some real estate space, right? Because as we saw with the heat map, every scroll helps, right? Everything matters. So as we squeeze things in, we can add more information in there to help our users. All right, let's move on to user testing. Okay, user testing is the method to gather information by conducting, allowing the user to go through like a prototype or something that's self-guided so that they can give you some information. To illustrate that, let's do a user testing right now. All right, on social media, this is big deal going on, right? So I'm gonna ask everybody, who doesn't like pineapple on pizza? Raise your hand. Okay, cool, okay. Who thinks pineapples belong on pizza? Raise your hand. All right, let me get my reading glasses out, put your hands up. Let me get my reading glasses out and count. Okay, hey, Chris, I don't see any hands up.
I don't see any hands up.
Oh, me too. Guess who the winner is? No pineapple on pizza. Totally legit. Totally legit. All right, so for a real one, if you look at, these are two different designs, right? On A, the call to action, I'll highlight the differences. The call to action says see product. And on the right side, there's a link that says view headphone details and a button that says buy now. Okay? So just seeing the screen, who is in favor of option A? Raise your hand. All right. Who is in favor of option B? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. Now, let me give you the prompt, okay? The customer issue. As a customer, I do not want to be persuaded to make rash decisions. I want this website to allow me to make my own decisions to buy when I want to. Okay, let me read that again. As a customer, I do not want to be persuaded to make rash decisions. I want this website to allow me to make my own decisions to buy when I want to. Okay, knowing this is the customer issue. Who votes for A? Raise your hand. Okay, and who votes for B? Raise your hand. Okay, there's more A this time. But that's what we can do, right? We can kind of justify and kind of see the data and see where users are leaning so that we can shift gears or stay on the same track if we need to. All right, A/B testing is the next item, right? A/B testing allows you to put a feature on your production website under a feature flag. It allows you to divert traffic to the new implementation That way you have the default state still there, but the users are still able to see the new feature, and 50% of them are going to go there. That way you can kind of see which one's going to perform better. Because sometimes we believe, right, that the new feature is going to perform better, but when we test it, the data tells us it's not going to, so you can just revert back. Because if we do that test ahead of time, we're going to save a ton of time. But if we don't, and we push it through, and we lose a ton of conversions and sales, that's really bad. But instead of doing that, we could use A/B testing to figure out if this new feature or this new implementation is going to be valuable to our customers. All right, so this design again, right? A/B testing. Let's pretend the left one is the default and the B is the new design, right? So what we can do is we can diverge 50% of our traffic to see B, while the other 50 is going to see the default. And we can gauge, and our metric is going to be conversions, right? Sales. Like how many sales are we going to get based on this hero right here? By doing that, these are pretend numbers. Let's pretend over here in B, it performed 57%, right? The conversion rate was 50%. On the left was 43%. So that tells us that, okay, this design actually is better, and we should move forward with that. And we should move forward in implementing it and pushing it into the general public, because this one here is not as performant, and we have the data to prove it. All right, now we'll move on to qualitative data. User interviews, focus groups, and surveys. All right, user interviews. These are interviews done one-on-one with the user in front of you or virtually as they're going through this new feature or prototype. They're explaining to you what they're doing, why, so you can see their reactions, their emotions, everything. And you can also ask them questions of like, oh, how come you went over here instead of over there? So you could get direct feedback from them instantly. So this is a great way to get instant feedback. So user studies can be constructed or structured or semi-structured. They will generate rich and quality user data. We will be able to gauge a user's reaction and behavior. The next item are focus groups. Okay? Focus groups are a gathering of people, and it's kind of the same thing as user study, but then you have a group conversation now. And you have a moderator to kind of help guide them through. Maybe it's a scenario, right? Like the headphones scenario where, okay, how could we check out faster if we want to just buy it, right? And then a group of people can talk about it and figure it out. And then as other individuals say something, you might not be thinking about that, but that will persuade you to think the other way, or vice versa, right? So having those group conversations, you can help each other come up with a better solution. So focus groups are helpful to have multiple voices and opinions to listen to. They can uncover valuable insights through group conversations, and these are moderated and to maintain focus. So we're going to do a focus group right now. All right, so again, right, A is the default one we've seen this whole time, but B is completely different now, okay? And if you see B, the headphone the image is flipped. It's a little bit smaller, but on the left side, it's a 50-50 split. On the right side, the image is like a third. The content's like 2/3. The call to action on the right is bigger, and it says buy now, but there's a link below that says view headphone details. So, any volunteers of how you feel about this design compared to that one, or this one compared to that one? Go ahead.
So, I mean, this new B design, I don't like it as much as the other one, but if I was coming to a page and I was interested in these headphones, or if I already knew what I wanted, I would definitely prefer B.
Okay.
The buy now lets me know, like, if I know for sure that I want it, it's a quick, easy way to get to the purchase. If I want to just review the product and get an idea of what it can do, I can look at what's below that, the view headphone details, and just look at that. I don't have the option to cut through that with A. There's no buy now with A.
Great.
And I feel like additionally, like going back to the original like user statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to be persuaded. I feel like by taking the two things, the buy now and the view headphones, and kind of bringing the view headphones now down beneath the buy button,
Mm-hmm.
You're now pushing them more towards buy now, whereas before the view had
Yeah.
phone details actually came first.
Okay.
Reading left to right.
Yeah. Nice.
The long line of text just drives me crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I interestingly had the opposite reaction as this person over here. That
Okay.
the first version of B I felt was pushy, where this one I'm like, oh, it somehow feels more neutral, where they're all just like, okay, yes, buy it now is in color, but it's much easier for me to see the view details button. So it's just funny. I had the opposite reaction.
Nice.
This version felt less pushy to me, just sort of satisfies what we need from them.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Are we going to get accurate A to B data if we have C product versus view headphone details? Because C product, I'm looking at the product. I can see the product. You made it cute. But a lot of people have mentioned view headphone details as like, oh, look, it's letting me see what I want to see about it. So we may be skewing our own results
Mm-hmm.
in that.
Great point.
Well, it depends on who your user actually is. Somebody with an accessibility issue can't actually see the page and has to go through the screen readers, does not see the product at all. They're just reading so they can see the product. Odds are they understand it's going to take them to more details where the other one is more explicit. So, the imagery, though it's nice on a black background with black, for anyone with any visual impairment is going to have a hard time actually seeing the product.
Mm-hmm.
Or even in the dark.
And I would worry about the contrast ratio on that C product, the colored button.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier actually to read than view headphone details.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Odds are that doesn't meet accessibility contrast ratio.
This is exactly what I wanted. Keep going.
Like, it doesn't look very linkish
Mm-hmm.
at a feedback. It's just white text. So how can you make it more visible as the link that's going to take somebody not, hey, there's a place to be.
That depends on what the business wants as their OKR, though.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't want that, that's their secondary call to action, so they're not going to make it prominent.
This reminds me of why I like doing usability testing, because we'll sit in a room and argue for like an hour.
I'm trying to buy some time here, so keep going. No, this is great. This is exactly what can happen, right? Like there's some positivity, some negativity, but then it kind of comes together, and then eventually like, you know what, you're right. And then it's like, okay, we come together and we put all this information together, and then we're like, okay, how can we move forward with this? Because there's some good data here, some negative data here. Let's put them all together and figure out a path forward, right? So I think that's the best thing, is when you have these group conversations, you hear other opinions, like accessibility, right? Did you even consider that? Looking at the design. Maybe, maybe not. But once that's brought up, now you're like, oh, yeah, like we do have to consider that as well. Right, and then another item are surveys, right? Surveys are on the website. You can go and give feedback. An example of that is like ride shares. When you're done, it says, hey, you rate this user, 5-star, whatever, and give some feedback. That's instant feedback for the application and all the business owners to understand, like, how can we improve, how can we get better with this direct feedback. All right, so I've worked for many teams, built many features, and every single team has had a different process, right? Like some use some of these quantitative and qualitative data resources, and some didn't use them at all. So it's been it's a very common practice, and so we're going to look at a process that's pretty practical from what I'm used to. Okay, so project manager or leadership comes with the idea, right? The customer pain point, they've identified that, they write a spec document, and they give it to the designer. The designer takes that, designs it, and then they hand it to development. Development implements it. That's it. Who has gone through a process like that before? Yeah, right. Many times. It's very common. So, can we combine both quantitative and qualitative data? Do I have any Dragon Ball Z fans out here? Okay, so you'll know this next GIF. When they fuse together, right? So yes, you can combine the two together. You don't have to use everything, but you can use like maybe when you A/B testing with focus groups, or maybe when you A/B testing analytics to do the design, and then use surveys or whatever to kind of complete the cycle. So you don't have to use everything, but it's great to kind of have a combination of them because then you have more data points to use. Remember, this isn't a bulletproof way to build successful solutions, but it does help you create more efficient solutions. Okay, so I'm going to go through a refined process, right? A process that may help you figure out if your feature is going to be more efficient in the end. So first, we start up with the new idea, right? We have a customer pain point, and PMs and leadership, they're going to try to come up with a spec so that we can kind of start with. And then after that, we push it to design, a thoroughly crafted design based on analytics, heat maps, all that stuff. And it involves PM and developers, right, early on in the stage. And then we take that design and we put it through user testing because it's a prototype now. It's not developed or anything, but it's a prototype where users can go through, interact with it, and provide feedback. Then after that, we can conduct a user interview where it's a one-on-one session, getting direct feedback. We know scenarios that we're looking for now. We can put the user through those scenarios to kind of see if our feature is going to perform well or not. And after that, if it does, then we're going to take it through to development. Development's going to implement it and prep it for A/B testing. As we go through A/B testing, we're going to diverge a percentage of our traffic to the new feature that's implemented, and we're going to try to test it out and see if we get good numbers out of it, right? Again, if it was conversion rates, we're going to look for conversion rates. If it increases, fantastic. If it only increases by a little bit, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be great, but you can continue to move forward, or you can stay right here, tweak it, make it better, and then you can move forward. Because as you're planning this feature, right, the best thing to do is to tweak it before you go too far along in the process. As you go further along the process, it's just time and money, because as we know, in development, when we reiterate and redo features, refactor things, it takes so much time and effort to do that. And then after that, we're going to gather all the information that we've got, right? All the user information from everything that we've done, and we will present it and give some recommendations to the leadership, the team. If it's good, if it's bad, whatever it is, you have all this analytical data to present to your team now. It's not just, oh, I think this feature is going to work, right? It's no, this feature is going to work because we have data to prove it. It's performing 25% better than what we currently have. We put it through A/B testing, we did user studies and all stuff, we tweaked everything, and we're very confident that this is going to be a good solution. So, how can we improve this process, right? How can we improve this process? I'm going to guesstimate that most of us here are nerds, which we are developers, right? Because developers are awesome. But the one thing that we cannot deny when we use data to back up our solutions, hold on here. The one thing no one can deny is when you back up your solutions with data, right? Why? Because data may disappoint, but it never ever lies, right? And don't worry about the graphic. I didn't create that. Again, data may disappoint, but it never ever lies, right? Like you can put a feature through, get some analytics and all that, and it might prove that your feature is not going to perform well, right? But that's okay because it's proven the point that whatever you're trying to do is going to work or it's not going to work. All right, so conclusion. Let's recap what we've learned today. How data helps support decisions, right? Brought the example of the Major League Baseball, how they use analytics to get more wins and how they use it to kind of revolutionize the whole sport. We talked about quantitative data resources with analytics, user study, user testing, heat maps, and A/B testing. And then we also talked about qualitative data resources with user interviews, focus groups, and surveys. And then lastly, we looked at a common project process and how we can refine that process to make it more efficient for our teams and ourselves. I want to leave you with one last thought. Leaving emotions aside, allow the data we collect to drive our decisions. Right? Because if we do it based on emotions and what we feel is correct, it probably is not going to be the best solution. But if we back it up with data and we do the research, we can have more efficient and sound solutions. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm Shashi Low. If you want to connect with me, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn.